All right, welcome to Cleveland, Ohio. Larry, Michael, Andrew, Walker. We are back with Game Time Live, and today it's the Redskins and Browns, the first preseason game of the year. It all started back July 29th in Richmond, a conditioning run, the first practice on the 30th. You had the joint practices with the Houston Texans, Andrew, where a lot of frustrations were released, and now the next step of the season, preseason game number one. What are your opening thoughts here?
Yeah, well, Larry, I don't know about you. I like watching practices in Richmond. You know, Richmond's great. People are great, but this is what I come to work for, to watch these games, see how the team does. So really excited. It's preseason. You know, obviously there's a lot of things in play today, but I'm really excited to see how things play out.
And you can plan on it, folks. Before every Redskins game, we're going to be right on the sideline. Rain or shine, you better bring an umbrella. On the road or at home, we've got Game Time Live before every single Redskins game, and there's a lot of action happening behind us. So let's step aside and check it out. And, of course, there are some players who are not here. We'll talk about them in a second. There's Alfred Morris right at the 40-yard line. He is here. And so for Alfred Morris and the Redskins starting offense, what do you hear? I know it was asked of Jay Gruden no less than yesterday, I think. What would the starters, how long would the starters go? What do you know?
Yeah, well, Jay at first said at least a quarter. That was his quote, was at least a quarter. Then yesterday it kind of changed his tune because, you know, if they pull off a 10, 12 play drive, that might be all they need to see from Robert Griffin in this offense. So that's definitely the number one storyline I'm looking for. How does Robert do? How does this, you know, the new right side of the offensive line do? All that goes into play today. So, you know, really excited to see what Robert and this offense can do.
There we see Robert Griffin III warming up. You've got Colt McCoy and you've got Kirk Cousins. And again, you know, we're going to see Johnny Manziel today and talk to some of the folks with Cleveland, and it's the same type of thing for the starter, McCown. They're looking for him to go one series, but depending on how long that series is. So for Robert, you know, if it's one good series, a successful long drive, might be it. If it's a 3 and out, probably going to see him again.
Right, and you know, you might remember last preseason where Robert and the first team offense, you know, they couldn't find the end zone. That was the kind of the frustrating part for the preseason for them. And then, you know, they started getting things going week 2 against Jacksonville. Robert goes down with the ankle injury. So they want to get the momentum going a lot earlier this year.
All right, we're going to ask Alex Diamond, our illustrious videographer, to swing it over to the left. There you see Deshaun Goldson at the 20-yard line. First time we're going to see him in a Redskins uniform. Also the first time we're going to see Chris Culliver in a Redskins uniform. So the defense on the back end does have D'Angelo Hall, but also some new faces.
Yeah, I've been watching them in practice very closely. They're very physical. Culliver and Goldson are both big guys. That's kind of the first thing I noticed about Culliver especially. He's a lot bigger than you might think. So they're going to be physical, and they're going to adapt to that kind of, you know, Legion of Boom or whatever, you know, whatever the trend's going. We definitely have it going this way, and it's no surprise with Scott McCloughan as a GM that's the way we're going.
That is McCown he's talking to, obviously former teammates. Here's D'Angelo Hall, a little closer to us, the playmaker at the 10-yard line, and he has had a remarkable recovery from that blown Achilles, and all of a sudden he's the old man of the secondary. He's also a very strong leader, and this team on the defensive side is a vet squad. While the offense has some youngsters on the line, do have some youngsters competing for positions, the defense is more veteran than the offense, I'd say.
Right, and you talk about D'Angelo, an interesting E60 profile on him a couple nights ago. Well done, but you know, with him, you know, he tears that Achilles. About a month later, in a incident at home, tears it again. You know, think about everything that went through his mind as he considered: do I come back? Do I go ahead and just call it quits? Well, no, he's worked really hard to get back to this point. And like you said, Larry, there's a ton of leaders on this defense. Some retained, some new. And you look at, you know, guys like Terrence Knighton in the middle, Pot Roast, my favorite nickname of all time. He's probably the biggest difference maker I'm looking for this Redskins defense.
First Energy Bank had a remodeling that has been completed, and the Browns are going to unveil some new uniforms here as well. Kickoff is at 8 o'clock. And a reminder, folks, while the Redskins wrap things up in Richmond, there is something to look forward to in the heart of Loudoun County, right there at Redskins Park, an open practice coming up on Sunday, August the 23rd. This was announced earlier this week. Go to redskins.com/ Fan Day. And you know what? It's been a couple years since there's been an open practice right there at Redskins Park, and the team wants to come back kind of like a welcome home practice, a welcome home luncheon a couple weeks after that. But it's a big date, August the 23rd, and there's still 2 more practices open in Richmond on Saturday and on Sunday, so there's still time. And Fan Day in Richmond is this Saturday. A lot of folks expected there. Taking a look down to the other side of the field, you see some of the Redskins warming up. You've got your special teams. And, you know, competition has been the hallmark of this training camp, but it's a handful of guys, including Ryan Kerrigan and Deshaun Jackson, who are not here. So you got guys who aren't here, which means the guys who might be behind them have a chance to show something here.
Right. You talk about Ryan Kerrigan, you know, not here, just precaution for the left knee. You know, had a little scope in May, but just a precaution for him. The guy I look to fill in his shoes, kind of, you know, down the depth chart per se, is Jackson Jeffcoat. I've been watching him one-on-one against the O-line in those drills. He's had a pretty strong camp. He has a lot of speed to him. You know, obviously he was that, you know, 5-star recruit coming out of high school, had a very good career at Texas. And then Deshaun Jackson, you know, he won't be playing today, just, you know, with that shoulder he injured in practice a week or so ago. But, you know, I look for a Ryan Grant to emerge, someone like that. Crowder probably can't go today, but Ryan Grant definitely someone who had a great preseason last year who can step it up again this year.
Do you think that this season you have seen more competition and there might be more positions open than previous years? Take a look at the roster. The mainstays are there. You know, on the defensive side, the acquisition of Paya, the acquisition of Potrost, Culliver, Goldson. Of course, they're replacing guys that were there last year, and they seem pretty secure in their positions. And we know Jay Gruden's talked about it quite a bit. A lot of competition this year, and Scott McCloughan has brought in a lot of big football players. He's looking for football players. Malcolm Blacken, please get out of the way. So, you know, it is a different look team, and here is the next step, I guess, the next chapter in this first year under Scott McCloughan. And obviously every team right now, optimistic, cautiously optimistic, but you got a lot of new guys. Dookie Camacho right there. That's a guy who we have not seen. He was injured last year, and you know what? Between him, Jerron Johnson, he might have the edge, but poor performance in preseason, he might lose that edge.
Right, and you know, Johnson right now is battling a little hamstring thing, so that's why he's really been out of practice and can't compete with Ian Nacho, so to speak. But there's Niles Paul right there.
Yeah, Niles Paul has worked himself in. Look who's right coming at us, Chris Baker. Chris Baker, all warmed up, all lathered up. Keenan Robinson too, getting ready for this first preseason game of the year here in Cleveland. And, you know, it's great to be back here. You know, what do you got to say there, Andrew?
Well, you're talking about competition, and the case in point for that, the Junior Gillette signing. Here we thought Trent Murphy and Preston Smith were going to battle it out for that other, you know, right side of the outside linebacker position. We bring in Junior Gillette, who still has a little bit of ways to go till he can fully practice, but, you know, that adds competition immediately, and a very talented guy. So, you know, that just speaks to the competition that you're talking about just a few minutes ago.
Walking right there, you see him going out of the frame to the left. It is Matt Cavanaugh, Pierre Garçon behind him. Matt Cavanaugh, one of those veteran coaches that was brought in here. Bill Callahan, Perry Fuel, Joe Barry. It is a retooled coaching staff, so this is the first chance for us to see these coaches and what they might have taught these players.
Right, and with Cavanaugh, you know, pretty much what we've been told is he's that main guy in the quarterback's room, obviously, that can deal directly with the quarterbacks, do directly, you know, all their moves, all their reads, everything that they need to do, and that leaves Jay Gruden and Sean McVay to worry about that, but they get to spread their wealth, so to speak. So Matt Cavanaugh should be a huge addition to this staff.
Once again, you're watching Game Time Live. Larry Michael, Andrew Walker. We are in Cleveland, preseason game number 1. Redskins will return home on August the 20th for the first preseason game of the year at home. It'll be the Detroit Lions in town, and there's Robert Griffin III with his quarterback coach, Matt Cavanaugh. They have been inseparable. The next Saturday, it is a game August the 29th. The Redskins at Baltimore, wrapping it up September 3rd at home against Jacksonville.
I almost didn't recognize Matt Cavanaugh without his club. He has that club in his hands, trying to beat the ball out of the quarterback's hands. So
that is a foam-covered club.
Okay, well, I'm sorry. You know,
I mean, it sounded like he was beating somebody, and that's not the case. And you know, obviously the fraternity here. Matt Cavanaugh has been in the league a long time, and he's coached in a lot of places. So it's no surprise he sees a familiar face on the field.
Right, and going down the coaching staff, have you ever seen anybody work the offensive line like Bill Callahan has? I mean, the guy's a wizard. He's amazing. The things he did in Dallas, obviously did a great job with some good talent. But, you know, Bill Callahan's really working this line, really getting their steps down. So we'll see what progress they've made today.
Let's focus in on the man who all the focus is on, Robert Griffin III, as the big man Trent Williams slowly walks in front of us. How does Robert deal with the pressure on him? I mean, all eyes will be on him. Obviously, the practices over the course of the offseason, the OTAs, the mini camps, training camp, pretty much almost in the rearview mirror. It's almost time for the regular season. So much pressure on that young man. How does he deal with it?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you how he dealt with it a couple days ago. He went 8 for 8 and 11 on 11 drills, which, take it for what it's worth, but still 8 for 8, about 100 yards and a 50-yard touchdown to Niles Paul. So, he's obviously progressing in this offense. Jay Gruden says so. When you talk about the outside pressures, one of the most interesting things I heard from him this offseason from Robert was, he had the birth of his daughter, Reese Ann. Said that kind of put everything in perspective for him. He's playing football for his family, and, he doesn't have to worry about anything else.
Here's one of the kickers in the middle of the field, Ty Long, and he and Kai Forbath have been dueling it out. I think after a slow starting camp, Kai Forbath has really become consistent. I think he's very comfortable as the number one kicker. You never know. You miss a couple here, that could change. Tressway, the punter, led the league in gross average last year. The Redskins special teams improved a little bit last year. You mentioned Adam Hayward. We saw him here earlier. Lost him to injury. But I think the influx of additional talent can only help the special teams. There's better players in the second string, third string right now, so that they better be able to play special teams or they might not be here.
Right, and with the 9 draft picks remaining of the 10 that we got, because Tevin Mitchell got waived, all of them pretty much add to the special teams units. And that's what they're looking for. They need those well-rounded guys that can play their position and add to special teams. And then you have guys like Deshaun Goldson. He doesn't necessarily have to play special teams, but he's on the kickoff coverage unit that I've seen. And, guys like Logan Paulson, who might be out for a little bit with a toe, but Adam Hayward, those are the guys you look for leadership, and that's why you believe that the special teams unit is going to improve.
You excited about the season, Andrew Walker? We read your articles every single day, and all the social media the Redskins pump out, doing a great job. Brian Van Balen, Jake, Steven Zarda, you name it, you guys work overtime. Are you excited about the year?
Yeah, and it's being kind of with the pulse of the fans. We know how happy they are to just get a new season going. A lot of off-season changes. The Scott McLuhan thing, you can't say enough about how excited fans are for him and what he can do for this organization. So yeah, to put it simply, I'm excited.
All right, kickoff is scheduled for 8:07, 8 o'clock on television. Check the game out on NBC4, Comcast Sportsnet, in Roanoke, in Norfolk, in Richmond, wherever you may be watching. And check out Redskins.com. Have that second screen up for all the latest tweets, pictures, photo galleries, all coming after the game. For Andrew Walker and our crew, Jen Hinkle, Alex Diamond, Daryl Johnson, a cast of dozens, we appreciate you watching Game Time Live. Enjoy the game, and thanks again for watching.